All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Horn Takes podcast, your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I am your host, Sean Redfern. It is Friday, folks. We made it to the weekend. I've been doing shows on Thursday. I couldn't get it done this week, man. I got sick as hell. I don't know if any of y'all had that winter norovirus shit. Ooh-wee. You don't want it. Stay away from it. If you know anybody that has it, don't go anywhere near them. Me and my son both got busted by this thing Monday, and it sucked really, really bad. Not trying to be gross on y'all, but it was terrible. But anyway, we made it to the weekend. We're feeling much better. We've got Texas football to talk about, folks. We got Texas baseball to talk about. We got to talk about this bizarre sort of Tavondre Sweat incident that not only led to Tavondre Sweat having a really ill-timed run-in with the law, but also it created a exodus from the football program. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And then we got to talk about high school versus college football. I don't want to give away too much of it, but just stay tuned for that one for sure. I'm just gonna give my thoughts, having played both high school and college football, on whether a high school football team, regardless of where, and I'll just say it, like a very talented high school football team, whether they could beat a small, like Division III type college football team. We'll get into my thoughts on that. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. And if you just like to listen to podcasts, this thing will be up. This episode will be up at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com just a few minutes after the show. We do that every time. And I guess I need to put that on TikTok, like a video clip of that on TikTok, and probably on Twitter, because there's probably some weirdos that don't want to like see my beautiful face delivering this podcast every week until we get closer to football season. Then we're gonna stretch it out. Matter of fact, I got to figure. I don't know. We'll just see. I don't know what the sweet spot is. But at some point before football season starts, and certainly during the season, we're gonna have a conversation 4 times a week on this show. Let's talk about Texas football, spring football, winding down. Man, I think they finished 10 practices, maybe more than that at this point. 10 of the 15 that they get. Spring game is next Saturday at 1:00 at Darrell K. Royal Memorial. I know that. I believe the school is trying to do some stuff because it's kind of a big weekend. TCU will be in town for baseball. I don't know about the ladies in softball, but I do know for a fact TCU will be in town for baseball and obviously the spring game. So there's probably going to be some stuff going on around campus. Maybe Bevo Boulevard, like maybe a smaller version of game day. I love Bevo Boulevard. I will never not say that. Anytime we talk about Bevo Boulevard, I'm going to tell you I love it. Lots of food, lots of drink, reasonable prices, get you close to the stadium. They are going to have Reckless Kelly is going to be singing, going to be playing ahead of the game over there on the LBJ lawn as part of Longhorn City Limits, which is another part of Bevo Boulevard, another part of the game day atmosphere that CDC has brought to the University of Texas. So it ought to be a good time. If you're around Austin, you should go check it out. If you're not around Austin, you don't have shit to do next weekend, Austin's a pretty decent place to go visit. So I might consider, if I were you, heading down there, spending the weekend. Take your lady friend, take your special lady friend on a surprise trip to Austin. Go eat some good barbecue. Go check out 6th Street if you've never done that, but be careful. Don't stay too long. And then go see what's going on Saturday. Watch the spring game. Could be a good time. Would be a good time. Absolutely 100% would be a good time. But then also there's a Twitter group, and I don't know, Nicole Wiltfong, I think. Whitfong, I don't know. You'll find her. Look for Nicole Witt or something like that, and it's Whitfong or Wiltfong. She kind of organized a kind of a Texas Longhorn Twitter get together So check that out on Twitter. Look her up. Find out the info. I think they're going to hang out at Schultz's before the game and then head over to the game. That would be pretty cool to meet some. If you're into tweetering, if you're into the twattings, then you could meet some people that you probably interacted with right there on the line. You could meet them in real life. Check out the spring game with them. I actually think the attendance is going to be pretty good for this spring game. I mean, I don't think it'll be anything crazy, but I think the attendance will be pretty good, especially with all the sort of extracurricular stuff going on. It should be a good time. I wish I could make it, but I don't think we're going to be able to make it. So we're talking spring football, like who's been standing out? And I think that's a tough question. I think a lot of people have been standing out. We don't get a whole lot, and we don't get to see hardly any of it or hear about, like there's not a lot of reporting going on from inside, like actual guys from these websites being able to put their eyes on the team and see what's going on. There's not a lot of video coming out. The video we do see is a lot of like, it's like drills and things like that. We're not going to get to see a lot of scrimmage video, and we won't until the spring game. But there's a lot of people talking about a lot of people having really good spring practices. And you look at this roster, man, it is absolutely loaded with talent. I mean, I do not think Texas, maybe in the glory days of the mid to late 2000s, those teams were pretty loaded too. But we've definitely not seen that since then. And now we're seeing it. And what we're seeing is Steve Sarkisian having 3 recruiting classes worth of guys piled up on top of each other. He's a great recruiter. Obviously, his staff that he's been able to put together, they're great recruiters. The University of Texas kind of sells itself as it stands by itself, meaning like it's a cool place to be, right? It's a good place to go to school. The program, the facilities, all those types of things is attractive to these young football players. So there's a lot of stuff working for the University of Texas football program to just continue to build and just really keep piling talent on top of each other. And so, yeah, this team is loaded everywhere except for me, like the defensive linemen. And I don't mean they don't have guys, but there's not a lot of proven guys. Much like last season, we're kind of heading into this 2024 season hoping, not knowing, but hoping that there's 2 guys that are going to step up, just like Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat stepped up in 2023 when we lost Keandre Coburn and we lost Moro Ojomo. So again, two seasons in a row, we're going to send 2 guys, our 2 interior defensive line starters, to the NFL draft. And hopefully there's some guys behind them that can kind of jump in there and pick off where they left off, maybe even be better. Who knows? Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojomo were not nearly as dominant in the middle as Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy were last season. But I think they were so bad in the interior for so long at Texas that I don't think anybody expected that. I don't think anybody expected Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat to just blow up, like explode onto the scene the way they did. So maybe Vernon Broughton, maybe Big Alfred Collins. Talk about him, man. We've been talking about Alfred Collins for so damn long. It's finally his turn. What does he do with it? Does he have a blow-up contract type season? I don't know. We'll see. But to me, that's really that, and maybe the secondary. And the secondary is like absolutely loaded. Just not a lot. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about who's going to play, where they're going to play, what all that's going to look like. But certainly talented. I think there are a couple of young guys that you hear over and over and over again by Sark from other players when they interview him. And that's Colin Simmons and Ryan Wingo, the 2 sort of keystone recruits from the class last season. Wide receiver, both 5 stars, wide receiver, 5-star edge. You hear a lot about those 2 from the coaches and from the players. Colin Simmons got a sack in the Saturday scrimmage last weekend. Ryan Wingo, by all accounts, just continues to make play after play after play. And not only that, he's picking up the offense. He's I think Sark said when he makes mistakes, he's making them fast. And that's what you want. You want guys with confidence that are going to go do what they think they're supposed to do and do it full speed and then get coached up later. And they're not afraid to get coached up. So those two guys to me are definitely going to make an impact this fall for sure. And there's probably some other ones. There's always a few, right? There's always a few guys, at least one that you just don't know about. And bam, all of a sudden they're there and they're kicking ass. So, but those two guys we all know about, and I think they're going to have a big impact on this 2024 team. There's a few young guys I feel like they got to step up, and these are all interior defensive linemen. Aaron Bryant, Jeray Bledsoe, Big City Mitchell. Those guys, we got to get some depth. It's one thing to have two defensive tackles that can go rip shit up, right? It's a totally other thing if you've got multiple guys behind them that can come in and play and contribute and can be consistent. I'm not talking about most teams aren't going to have four or five guys on the defensive line that can just come in and just tear shit up all the same, right? Like it's just a buzzsaw. It doesn't matter who's in there. But what you see with really good teams is they've got the guys that are buzzsaws, and then they've got other guys that come in that can give them a rest that are just kind of solid contributors. So we need some guys to step up as solid contributors on that interior defensive line. Recruiting, starting to get poppy, folks. Just got a commitment from, what's this cat's name? I didn't even have a chance to write it down. Like literally just happened. Bo, can't remember his last name. Linebacker out of Dallas Skyline. Depending on which announcement you look at, this guy's either 6'1.5" or 6'3", and anything in between. And anything in between 220 and 230. And I got a chance to watch like a split second of film on this kid before I jumped on the show here. He can move. That kid can run. It's interesting. He wears number 0. Is he an anthill? I don't know. Probably not. There's not a lot of anthills, but again, this staff just keeps adding these really athletic playmaker type guys at key positions. I am just, man, I want Texas to win some championships, right? But even if they don't, man, I'm just ecstatic. We should all just be ecstatic as Texas fans that when we put a team on the field, like it can compete with any other team physically. And that just hasn't been a thing that's happened in a long time at Texas. So thank the Lord for that. Anyway, lots of recruiting going, and it's just going to keep. I mean, there's a lot of big visits coming up these next few weekends. There's going to be between now and probably July, it's just going to be like commit, probably on through into August. I mean, you're going to have your holdouts that say they want to wait till National Signing Day and all that. But I think a lot of this class for next year is going to be committed before the season starts. And there's lots of big names coming in on these. One of the biggest to me, DeCorian Moore out of Duncanville, the number 1 wide receiver in the country. He's a guy that he committed to LSU like a long time ago. And he's got, he committed to LSU before his junior year of high school. So, I mean, and I said it then, I was like, man, not that he got pressured into it like in a bad way, but I feel like he just kind of got rushed into that commitment. Not that he doesn't like LSU. That's not what I'm saying. He obviously does. If you're a wide receiver, LSU, pretty strong recruiting pitch. But I think I think he just got caught up in some stuff. Like he got caught up with Colin Simmons committing. He got caught up with his boy Caden Durham committing to LSU. And it was right after that he committed to LSU. And so I said then, like, there's no way this commitment is over. Like, this recruitment is not over. And now you're starting to see Texas pick up some steam. And I don't know, like, if you were watching a bar graph, I don't know what that means, but I know he's visiting Texas a whole bunch over the course of these next few weeks. Like, he's going to be in town a lot. He was in town for the Texas relays. He's going to be in town on an official visit. So I think DeCorian Moore is a guy that we could easily see flip. And we talked about it a long time ago. I said back during this whole deal, he cannot truly be committed to LSU. It's just too far out in advance. And I said I think Texas will ultimately end up winning this recruitment. I could be wrong still. Who knows? It was interesting. I tried to get him on the show. Mike Roach, national recruiting analyst for Horns or for 24/7 Sports now. Used to be a Horns 24/7 guy. Try to get him on the show today to talk about it, but we kind of interacted on a thread on Horns 24/7 earlier this week, and he kind of disagreed with my thoughts there. And I just wanted to bring him in and just kind of get his thoughts, see what he thought. Unfortunately, couldn't make it work this week. We'll try to get Mike on the show. We've had him before. Always good insight when Mike comes on the show. But yeah, man, DeCorian Moore, I think that's a name to look for. And you know, the thing about these recruiting classes is once the dominoes start to fall a little bit, it doesn't take much for a lot of other dominoes to fall. So I think with this commitment, and you've got some big recruiting stuff coming up next weekend for sure for the spring game. I think the pace. I mean, people have been dogging out Texas for being like I don't know. I think they were like the 17th ranked class or something like that with 5 freaking commits. They're up to the 14th ranked class right now with 6. They're all 4 stars. Their average rating is 93.2 or something like that. So just 93.32. So just a really good class so far that they've been able to get committed. Obviously, they got to get it through the finish line. Sark doesn't have a problem with that. He's going to get guys. So we're excited about that. Excited about the spring game coming up. Again, you guys should check that out if you get a chance. I'll be watching. It'll probably be on Longhorn Network, unfortunately. We have talked so many times about how this podcast is not about like just analyzing X's and O's and analyzing this and analyzing and trying to be like real analytical about our thoughts. Like this is a fan perspective podcast. Like I'm a fan of Texas sports. So that means I get really happy sometimes. That means I get really pissed off sometimes. And this is one of those times I'm not trying to be Josh Pate or JD Pickle. I'm not trying to, I mean, if anybody wants to give me like a national show, I'll do it. But it's going to be a different show. It's not going to be a lot of, we're not going to hoorah stuff. Like if shit sucks, we're going to say shit sucks. And right now, shit is sucking for Texas baseball. Texas baseball 20-14 on the season, 7-5 in Big 12 play, which is good enough for 6th right now. And there just happens to be more than 12 Big 12 baseball teams. So I think there's like 13 or 14 teams. So they're just north of right in the middle of the pack. So let's talk about it, man. The BYU series was just there's no way to freaking sugarcoat it. That was a fucking disaster, man. They sandwiched a 4-3 win in between 2 7-5 losses against BYU. And if you take those two, you flip the series and just say Texas does what they should do to BYU and they win it 2-1. You flip around BYU's schedule or their ranking, not their ranking, their record accordingly. They're a bottom dweller. They are the bottom dweller. They're like tied for shittiest team in the Big 12. And they walked into Austin and they just fucking embarrassed Texas because they just played harder. They were just better. And like usually we talk about these, we recap these series. I'm not even going to do that because the details don't even matter, man. You just can't lose to a bottom dweller Big 12 baseball program like that. You just can't. And I think it's a sign of kind of just what this team is. We have talked so much the last few weeks on the show about how inconsistent they are, how up they can be and how down they can be, and how I really think they're going to make a turn one way or the other. I said that a couple of shows ago, and as a couple of weeks ago, they're gonna make a turn, and they're gonna either be the good team more consistently, or they're gonna be this bad team more consistently. And right now, it looks like they're inching off inconsistent to consistently shitty. And I don't mean that like in a bad way. Like I'm not dogging them. It's just the facts. It's not a dog. Like if you go like this, I see this shit on Twitter all the time where if you say something negative about the team, you're like a hater, right? And like, no, I'm not a hater. I'm just pointing out the fact that they suck right now. They're not playing good baseball. And I'm a fan, and that's what I'm going to say. I'm not gonna dig into every stat I can find that's positive and throw that up on Twitter and go, oh, everything's fine. I'm not gonna be the Baghdad Bob of Texas, Texas fan base saying that, oh yeah, it's all good. It's still all good. There's still like this part. This is awesome. This stat is good, right? So everything's good. I'm not gonna do that. Like they suck right now. They go to a midweek against Texas State and they split it. And what that essentially did was they lost a series to Texas State this season. You go back to the Astros Classic. They played them on Saturday of the Astros Classic, and that's the game where they got down so much so quickly and just kind of chipped away to get back in it. And they had the damn thing won, and they just couldn't get one out in the ninth inning. Instead, they gave up a 2-run blast and lost the fucking game. So going all the way back to that, so they've played Texas State 3 times this year. They lost 2 of them. Texas State went to the tournament a couple years ago and did all right. But this ain't the same Texas State team. They are a 500 team this year. Exactly. And they are below 500 in the Sun Belt Conference. They are not good at all. And yet here we are again. So if you look at the last 2 groups of games Texas has played, they have lost to not good baseball teams at all. So we do this every time. State of the program. Well, it's a dumpster fire. That's the state of the program right now, today. Starting pitching can't make up its mind. For the longest time, and again, I'm not dogging on any of these kids. I'm just pointing out facts. Like I'm not hating on the boys. Like they're way better at baseball than I could ever have hoped to be at baseball. So again, please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not dogging anybody. I'm just telling you the facts. LBJ was the guy. LBJ was the only guy early in the season that could get past 3 or 4 innings. Some of them weren't great. Some of them were really, really good. But he was just kind of good. It certainly wasn't LBJ we saw last season at the end of the year, which I need to talk about that at some point. Like, what happened to that dude? I know what happened to that dude, but we'll save that for another time. So he was the guy, right? And they couldn't find anybody else that could get past freaking an inning and a half or 2 innings. It was like a disaster. And then finally, and we said, man, and again, I don't know shit. Like I'm not like this amazing smart person, but I was like, Boogie Whitehead has had some damn good relief appearances, like long, really good relief appearances. That guy's got to get a start. And then Max Grubbs kind of did the same thing. I said, that guy's got to get a start. And all of a sudden, they both get a start on the same weekend. And I knew they were getting starts on the same weekend. I was excited. I was like, this is going to be good. Like, I think Pierce has found his guys. Took him a while. That's okay. He found his guys. He's had to deal with some injuries. Like, I can give that pass. Like, it hasn't been a perfect start. And he's had some adversity. Pierce and the whole pitching staff, they've had some adversity on finding the right guys. I'm good. I'm okay with that. Baseball is a marathon. It's not it's not like football. You don't have to win every single game to be good. The second that Boogie Whitehead and Max Grubbs become starters, all of a sudden, LBJ can't get past 2 or 3 innings. He gets beat up. I mean, he can't. I mean, he's walking people. He's hitting people. He's throwing wild pitches. Can't throw strikes. Has zero confidence. Man, I watched that dude pitch on, was it Tuesday night? And I tweeted this. He looks like he is having the least fun I've ever seen anybody have playing baseball. Something's going on. Something is going on. So he throws his 43 pitches on Tuesday night. He's probably not starting this weekend. I don't know who's going to start this weekend on Sunday. If he does start, that would be what? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days rest. I don't know. Maybe. Someone said, well, that would be his bullpen day anyway. So maybe. I think a bullpen day is a lot less stressful than an actual game. And it was stressful for him. It wasn't a clean 43 pitches against Texas State. So Boogie and Grubbs are going to move up a day. I think Boogie Whitehead's going to get the start tonight. Grubbs will get the start tomorrow. I don't know who pitches. Sunday. And honestly, I don't know that it matters. Because now let's talk about the lineup. If the top of this lineup is not on fire, this team cannot score. And so far Peyton Powell's been struggling. And I get it, man. Again, I'm not dogging none of these dudes. Peyton Powell's an outstanding baseball player. From a utility perspective, that dude can play at all. I love Peyton Powell. He's struggling right now, and that's going to happen. But that's why you need everybody to be able to pick everybody up, and that's just not happening. The bottom of the order is just not getting it done. Like, if you can keep Texas in the park, if you can keep those first 4 or 5 hitters in the park, they're not scoring a lot of runs. They just can't. So the lineup's struggling, not scoring a lot of runs. The pitching staff, again, is kind of, I thought we were good, man. We're not good. Grant Fontenot, now they're down. They're down another guy now because Grant Fontenot is no longer with the program. So that's news from yesterday or maybe the day before. I'm pretty sure he pitched in the BYU series, but so quickly. Apparently, what I had read was that he had some choice words with one of the assistant coaches, and if I was assistant coach, I wouldn't tolerate that shit either. Pierce didn't have a whole lot to say about it in the little article I saw, except that they needed to get guys to buy in and do the work that they needed to do. So I don't know if that meant Fontenot was just kind of cruising or what. The interesting thing is he had really good numbers. I don't know. Is it, is Fontenot a bad egg? Maybe, probably. I can't recall in Pierce's tenure a player not being with the program in the middle of the season. I don't think that's ever happened before. But again, it's just a mess. How do you how's that ever happen? How does a college player start talking back to coaches? How is that ever okay? And is that that player problem, or is that is that a player coach relationship problem? I don't know. All I do know is there's 6 series left in Big 12 play for Texas. Can this team get it done down the stretch? We've seen it before. Their record is 20-14, right? And that's not the worst record a Pierce coach Longhorns team has had at this point. Actually, it is the worst record that a Coach Pierce Horns baseball team has had, but it's not by much. They were 24-10 in 2022 and 2023. They made it to the College World Series and the Super Regionals in both of those seasons, respectively. College World Series 2022, almost College World Series last season, but did definitely make the Super Regional, was competitive against Stanford in the Super Regional. The second worst record was 2019. They were 21-13. They failed to make the postseason. So, man, I hate to say it, but they got to get their shit together or they're not going to make the postseason. And we have been anywhere. We've been in different spots on the scale, but we've been anywhere for a long time now on Texas. They could be anywhere between they don't make it at all, which is unfathomable. Unfathomable. I can't say that word right now. It's unconscionable that Texas could not be in the final 64 best teams in college baseball. Yet here we are. it might actually be a thing. Their RPI is not good. It's like last time I looked, it was like 69th or something like that. They could be anywhere from that to make it to the College World Series, man. Because honestly, they are insanely talented. The bats would have to just go absolutely off, which is interesting because that is what has propelled David Pierce coach Texas teams as far as they have gone. Like they have gotten insanely hot towards the end of the season with their bats. If they miss postseason in 2024, they're headed into the SEC missing postseason. And whether they make postseason or not, there's a lot of like, to me, there's like a lot of questions about this team, like, and the program, not necessarily the team, like the program itself. Like, is David Pierce the right guy? Is David Pierce kind of at the bottom of all of these problems? Because two things can be true at the same time. David Pierce could be sort of a catalyst for some of the good shit. And I've said it before. Texas Longhorn baseball has never hit the baseball the way they hit the baseball under David Pierce. Obviously, that's a positive for him. But man, the pitching is just absolute trash. He's a damn pitching coach now. If you're the pitching coach and you're the head coach, your little discipline cannot be the part that sucks. Look at Nick Saban. And Nick Saban was a defensive coach his entire career. Had a big hand in the way that Alabama defense went. Nick Saban would lose his damn mind on the defensive players, even as the head coach of Alabama. Nick Saban would be coaching defense during practice at Alabama. That was his baby, and he wanted to make sure that it didn't suck. The good news, the next two series are against the two worst teams in the Big 12 right now, Houston and TCU. They go down to Houston this weekend. 6:30 tonight will be first pitch. 6:30 tomorrow night will be first pitch. And then 1:30, I believe, p.m. on Sunday. All these games on ESPN Plus and the Longhorn Radio Network. And then they get TCU at home next weekend. Ought to be some good crowds because of the spring game. We'll just have to see how that goes. Seems like this shit happens every single year, guys. Around NFL draft time, somebody does something not smart, not in their best interests. And this year, it has happened to Tavondre Sweat. Got arrested for DWI early Sunday morning. And again, just kind of a bizarre deal. Like, here's what I think I know about this deal. So, Samaj, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it. Samaje Burrell, redshirt freshman linebacker at Texas, hit Tavondre Sweat from behind enough that spun his Bronco out and toppled it over on its side. And apparently he left the scene, Burrell. Sweat was over the legal limit, got booked. And as far as I know, Samaje Burrell has not been charged with anything, but he is now no longer with the program and will enter the transfer portal in 3 days when the transfer portal opens up. Like, what the fuck are these dudes doing driving around at 6 a.m. drunk on a Sunday? Like, why does this keep happening? There's Uber, man. There's driving services. Like, if you think you're too good to get in an Uber, and let me back up. Like, I am not talking down on these kids specifically. I'm just saying, like, why does this keep happening? Like, take the names out of it and let's just talk about the situation. Why is this such a big problem? We just saw the kid from the Chiefs getting this big wreck on the damn highway in Dallas and just leave his shit and walk away. I don't know if he was drunk, but probably he might have been. We saw the dude from what was it, the Oakland Raiders or whatever, Las Vegas Raiders, just fucking shit canned and kills some people, kills some person. I don't know. Like, if you are too good to get in an Uber, they have driving services that these guys drive nice vehicles. You can look cool. You can pull up in a nice vehicle. I think they're probably reasonably priced for a professional athlete or a person that's about to be a professional athlete. Like, I don't think it's out of your price range. So there's that. I mean, hell, this happened in Austin, man. Like, Tavondre Sweat could have knocked on anybody's door at their home, in their car, and just said, "Hey, I'm Tavondre Sweat. I've had too much alcohol. Can you drive me home?" And it would have happened. Man, it is like infuriating to me that this keeps happening because it's just dumb. I mean, like, some pro athletes need to start taking Ubers, so all these kids think it's cool to take Ubers. I don't know. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make for him in terms of draft stuff. I think because, first of all, I don't know how much the NFL really cares, right? Like, I don't. They're going to care, but do they really care, or is it a care that benefits them? Like, I think somebody might get a steal in Tavondre Sweat now. And that's what they really care about. They care about getting some production and getting it for as cheap as they can get it. The other question I have is, like, why do these guys leave the scene? Like, you're getting caught. It's your vehicle. I mean, the only thing I could think that makes sense there is if you just know you're drunk, maybe leaving the scene is the best idea. So that's not on record. Like, I don't know how that works. But it's pretty bad to leave the scene of an accident in the state of Texas. I know that. Regardless of all that, it's really bad timing for Sweat for multiple reasons. Like, one, it's a few weeks before the draft, which is, it's never good to get in trouble a few weeks before the draft. But I think specifically for him, he spent, like, there was a lot of questions about Tavondre Sweat along the lines of, is this guy really, mature enough to make football a focus? Like, can he be that guy? I mean, story, everybody remembers the story of Bo Davis losing his shit on the bus after Texas just got fucking embarrassed by Iowa State up in Ames a couple seasons ago. That was Tavondre Sweat that got that whole shit started. He was the one laughing, and he admitted it on a podcast. He said, that was me. So he kind of went from that kid. And I don't think, again, and let me also say, I think Tavondre Sweat just likes to have fun. I think he's just a happy kid. There ain't a damn thing in the world wrong with that. But you got to have some awareness, right? Like, I know I like to have fun, but it's not a good time to have fun after you just get your dicks knocked in the dirt by a shitty ass Iowa State team. And not only that, like, it was embarrassing. I mean, they just got fucking abused in that game, in the trenches, both sides. But he worked really, really hard to put himself in a position to show NFL scouts that he could take this shit seriously, and he was willing to work on his craft and get better. And boy, did he! I mean, amazing season last year by Tavondre Sweat. But man, it only takes one little thing. I mean, I say little; it's not a little thing, but it only takes one speck of negative to ruin, like, all the hard work you put in. And I don't know, man. I'm all for second chances. I think that's a really bad thing to mess up on. So I don't know how much sort of I don't know what he's losing with NFL GMs with this whole thing. Like, how much trust is gone? How much How much will they rely on his body of work over the last year versus this incident? I just don't know really how the NFL will handle that. I think it's got to affect him in some way. I mean, I think he cost himself some money, certainly cost himself some progress towards being what he wants to be, which is taken seriously and all that stuff. So anyway, we'll hope the best for T Sweat. He's a cool dude, man. Just what I know about him, which isn't much, but you just see him catch that touchdown pass in the Big 12 championship game and bust the Heisman. That's just some like funny shit. Like I imagine T Sweat just is cracking jokes all the time, and I like people like that. I like people that are happy and make shit fun. So we'll hope he learns from this lesson and it doesn't mess up his prospects too badly. We're also happy that no one got hurt. Obviously, there was a wreck. There could have been there could have been worse. Could have been a lot worse. And I hate that. I hate that for the kids. I hate it for any people that get involved in those types of deals and end up losing their lives, innocently. I don't like the whole thing at all. So, anyways, I wish the best for him, and we'll wish the best for Samaje Burrell wherever he ends up. I'm sure he'll end up somewhere. Someone will say we'll take him. So enough about that. We were watching TikTok the other day, thumbing through TikTok, and I saw a video, and this video is a well-known sports sort of guy on TikTok. He's pretty highly followed. I think he's got maybe 150K followers, something like that. So he's got a pretty decent following on TikTok. And he was responding to a comment about high school and college. And basically the thesis of his video was that a high school team full of 4 and 5 stars could beat colleges, because most colleges don't have a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. And so I'm not trying to call this dude out. I'm not even going to mention him by his name because I don't do that. Like I'm not trying to start like a war with this guy. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff that he talks about that I don't necessarily agree with, and that's okay too. But the thing is, he's an Army vet. I'm an Army vet. So I respect him for that, even if I don't agree with his takes. But I'm going to talk about this take of his. This was just a frozen, like absolute crushed ice take of his that a high school team, and specifically, and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Modern Day High School, which I believe is out there in the Los Angeles area. It's one of those private schools, kind of like IMG Academy over in Florida. They recruit kids and give them scholarship, all that kind of stuff. So they have a lot of talent there. There's a lot of good players come out of there. But he said Modern Day could beat a college football team. And that is just completely absurd. Any established football program, and by established, I just mean like didn't start yesterday. Like any football program in college that's been playing football for 15, 20 years would absolutely destroy Modern Day High School in any game. Most of their highly rated guys, and there's a few reasons for this, most of their highly rated guys are skill guys. And in high school, skill guys can absolutely win you football games. That's one of the points I believe that he did have right. You can have one guy on a high school team that can kind of lead, one great player on a high school football team can lead his team to a state championship. Absolutely, 100%. Because some of those guys, and they're usually a skill guy, are just so much better than the skill guys everywhere else. But skill guys do not win games in college. They just don't. College games are won in the trenches. And if you need any more proof that is 100, we talk about that all the time on this show. The best teams in college football are the best teams because they have the best offensive lines and they have the best defensive lines. Period. I will not abide any other talk. That is 100,000% true. You can take all the great skill players you want to, and you put them behind a shitty offensive line and a shitty defensive line, and you're not going to win a lot of football games. And all you got to do is look at Colorado last year. Colorado last year has some pretty damn good skill players, especially offensively. And they damn near got Shadur Sanders killed because their offensive line was garbage. And they got absolutely brutalized in a few games last year because their defensive line was garbage. So I don't care how good your skill guys are. If you don't have a really good offensive line and a really good defensive line, you're not beating college football teams. And I'm not talking D1 college. I'm talking D3 college football teams. The other thing is most, and so I know Mater Dei they got good, offensive linemen and defensive line recruits, right? They got those guys. But even the highest ranked trench warrior guys in high school most of them still need a ton of physical, mental, and technical development before they're ever ready to contribute at the collegiate level. Like, you just don't see a lot. You see it. We'll never say it never happens. You just don't see a lot of freshmen in college that are offensive linemen and defensive linemen that can come in and contribute at a high level right off the bat. It just doesn't happen. You see a lot of them play, but a lot of that's necessity. Caden Proctor was like the best offensive tackle in his class. Texas fucking abused him. And a lot of other teams did too last season. He was not ready at all to be doing what they were asking him to do. And talented or not, a high school offensive line or defensive line is going to get consistently brutalized by a college offensive line and college defensive line. And that's where the game is won and lost. Those skill guys can't skill their way around that. I played at a Division III college, and there's lots of talent at a Division III college. Most of it's not huge. It's not going to be your massive, big, 6'5", 300-pound lineman. There's a lot of good players at Division III, and matter of fact, there's a lot of ex-D1 guys that end up at Division III schools. I had to block a kid that transferred from Rice, which I know Rice ain't a big school, but it's a D1 school. So there's D1 expatriates that find their way to these D3 schools. We scrimmage junior colleges every year. And junior colleges are D1 guys that just couldn't get the grades to get to college, get to that D1 school. Or maybe they were in trouble and nobody wanted to give them a chance. We used to wear their asses out. They're all young guys, freshmen and sophomores. Anybody tells you that a high school all-star team could not beat some of these college teams. Again, I'm not going to say there's not a single team they couldn't beat in college, but if you just randomly pick a Division III college football team and put it up against a high school all-star team, that random Division III college football team probably has a 95% chance to win that game. It is a completely different game. It's just not the same. So again, not trying to I am not like trying to start a war with this dude. I just completely 1000% as a person that's played high school football, played college football, just 1,000,000,000% disagree totally with his entire thought process on that. All right, folks, that's the show for today. Check us out next week. We'll talk about Texas baseball. Maybe they get their shit together. Maybe they can get a sweep against a struggling Houston team. And then we'll talk about what we're looking for out of this spring game next Saturday. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Won't cost you guys a thing. We sure appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys have a good weekend. Get hooked.